everyone, I'm Dr. Paul Morrison. Welcome to the training of CompTIA Cybersecurity Plus exam. A little bit about myself. I think that's always important just to kind of start out with. I am a cybersecurity practitioner, I like to say. I actually do work as a cybersecurity professional, supporting organizations, really just one today, focusing on how to secure cyber as it relates to risks, threats, etc. I do hold a doctorate degree in computer science. My focus has been AI as well as cybersecurity. I've written one or two papers. Obviously, you have to do your dissertation, so I count that as one. But I've also have written many ebooks around different aspects of cyber and cybersecurity. So this is more of me just kind of expanding out on my knowledge. And what I decided to do is really create some training course. I'm going to be very organic in how I'm training, so the and other things. This is not really scripted. This is really, I like to say, down to earth type of training that I do provide. After the training, along with the videos that I do insert into the training, if you have more questions about certain things I've covered, it's not once you buy the training, one and done. No, you have access to me. Please email me about anything that you want clarity on, and maybe I didn't cover necessarily clearly. There's a lot of information, and there's no training. I repeat, there's no training. I don't care what anyone says, that you could just take it one and done and now you're taking an exam. It doesn't work that way. It hasn't worked, and I've taken lots of exams. I've taken the A+, Network Plus, Security Plus, CISMPs. I've done so many different CISMs, Ethical Hacker. I could go on and on and on. And I could tell you, in my opinion, unless you know this stuff like the back of your hand, you literally have to crawl, walk, run. So this is your crawling phase. This is really trying to understand concepts, basic concepts related to cyber threats, vulnerabilities, risk management, etc., etc., etc. But you got to start somewhere. I didn't start out kind of understanding cyber. My background's a lot different. I really was doing a lot of consultancy work, putting in database systems like PeopleSoft, and just consulting from that perspective, and I kind of gravitated into cyber, and then I continued to educate myself. I actually also ran a business, and I could tell you, getting the Security Plus, A+, and Network Plus really helped me kind of understand a lot about the various components of security hardware. So I will really like to speak from experience of how I've gotten through it. Again, this is just my journey. Everybody's journey is going to be different on how you learn, how you educate yourself. The two fundamental things I would say with any exams, practice test exams. There's no way around it, in my opinion. Again, now you might be one of those star pupils who just go off and knock it out. Kudos to you. But most of us, we need to study in some form or fashion, especially this material, because even if it's multiple question, you can say, okay, I could guess. Even if you pass, you are no good to an employer. You are no good to running your own shop because you didn't understand the core concepts of what's needed. So really, this is what this course is about. I'm working on an A+ course, and I'll be doing a Network Plus. My Security Plus course is going to be one more for commercial and one for more government entities, because they are different. And again, I'm just bringing you my experience. I'm also a veteran, so worked in the government sector, not work in per se, but more supported based on my client interactions and the requirement that the government has for people who are doing business with them and ensuring the right controls are in place. So the course, as well as my mini courses, is going to be kind of broken out into different facets. One, Obviously, I'll go over concepts, and then I'll go into a video. The video was created with me really writing it out and then using AI to kind of put together some of the visuals. So the wording is really me just writing that out and then using AI to help explain some of the concepts. Again, AI is here. We're using it. This is just one way I'm using it, because I do believe it'll help with kind of the material so you clearly understand it a lot better. Now, this certification is important in the industry from two different paths. The first one is really government sector. You're going to work in the government. As far as I remember, when I was going through getting my certification, this was a must-have in order for you to even work with them. You had to have the Security Plus, Network Plus, and A Plus. Now, you might want to just fact check me a little bit. I don't know if that's still required. I do believe the Security Plus is, and I think into leading to management, you have to have the CISMs and the other ones, I believe. But again, don't quote me on that, because I believe some of these certifications, while are valid, I don't think it teaches you to truly be a cybersecurity practitioner. Cybersecurity is working through the grays. So while the exam may say do X, Y, Z, and you do this, I could tell you when you get into the real world, not really the case. Again, I live it, do it every day. And if I just answer based on, oh, this exam said to do this, or this test question said to do this, and this should be the answer, I would lose everything from the perspective of my company I support, my stakeholders. It just wouldn't make sense. You've got to tie risk and really tie cyber to the risk of the business, tied to what we talk about as risk appetite. Again, we're going to get into a lot of that, but I just wanted to really just kind of cover those things. And so let me go back to the appendix, because I'll tend to kind of give you my personal thoughts based on my experience, but also kind of make sure I cover aspects that I kind of wrote out here. So again, I covered preparing for the examination. I'll cover the key topics. And again, the benefits is of attaining certification, and I think I might have gotten away from it, is I look at that certification and this particular certification that I'm covering as a certification that when I at least see that, I understand, okay, this individual at least understands foundational concepts, something I could work with, versus this person understands nothing and it's going to be a bigger ramp up. So this certification tells employers that at least you understand the basic concepts, and you can then be brought in as an entry level person, and then we could kind of grow from there. But without it, it's almost like you're retraining an individual from the ground up. Now, have I done that? Sure, I have. But I could tell you it was a lot of my time and a lot of my effort. And if I think back on it, while this person turned out to be a really great cybersecurity person, they went on to get these certifications, and then they went on to do great things. I've actually done this about 5 times, where I took someone who didn't know anything, and I've kind of brought that person along, both he and her. So I've done it for male and female, and mentored them accordingly. And that's the other thing, is getting a mentorship, etc. We'll cover that, is very important too. So the overview of the certification, right? So again, it's a globally recognized anywhere in the world. When I say anywhere in the world, I mean anywhere. I travel a lot, so I can tell you, if you go to Vietnam, if you go to Thailand, you go to Indonesia, you go anywhere. If you have that certification, at least they know that you understand cyber very well from a basic concept. I keep saying, from a basic concept. You're not going to walk in the door and be able to solve all the ills of the world as it relates to cyber. If you take more of my courses, we're going to get very, very technical, because understanding how threat actors get into your environment does require you to understand some of the technical aspects about firewall, ports, passwords, access elevated privileges. There's a whole lot to this, but you probably just run and say, okay, forget about it. What again? Crawl, walk, run, and this is your crawling phase from there. So what topics we'll cover? Things I talked about: vulnerability management, risk management, access control, operational security, compliance, network security, governance. There's a whole slew of things in there that this certification covers, but again, it's more high level. And then, of course, as I said before, once you get the certification, it just opens up your doors to higher paying jobs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera from there. All right. Why the certification needed, and I covered that a little bit, and I think I covered it a lot, but why do we have a need for cybersecurity professionals? Again, I'll cover it in videos. I also have a YouTube channel that talks about this extensively. But if you think about what you hear about in the news, and you hear about threat actors, you hear about ransomware, you hear about a lot of different things, you'll need at least some layer of protection against that, which is via tools, processes, and people. 3 key pillars of things that go hand in hand. I say things, but combination. People, process, technology. In your cybersecurity journey, if you don't have all 3 clicking at all good cylinders, your program is deficient, in my opinion. You will have people that will try to come in and tell you, get this tool and walk away. Not so much. Why? You need people to configure it. And then you need the process to deal with what the tool creates as an output. Because without that, then you could have a tool just blocking and doing certain things and giving you certain outputs, but you are not getting the benefit of a process that will educate the people in terms of knowing what to do with it. Very key from that perspective. And again, we'll cover more of that from that perspective. So again, preparing for the exams, I think I always covered this up front, is again, practice exams and study material. No matter what course you take, even if you didn't take this one, you could go and do a boot camp, because I've done boot camps. You could go and spend $1,000. I've done that. At the end of the day, I still didn't walk away that, wow, I've got everything I needed. It was really me carving time out and getting very serious and going through those practice exams. I recommend going to CompTIA. They have tons of practice exams you could go through. I do put exam questions here, but it's not the actual exams. It's concepts about what the exam questions will look like. But everything's a point of time. So you may purchase this course and you may not take the exam for another 9-10 months. I could tell you any training I've done, I would take the training, I would kind of look for it. Now, I would say, when I mean look for it, I would kind of take the exam and then say to myself, okay, let me put a target date of when I'm going to take this exam. Now, the material that you learn it's good to apply it to an exam in short order, because if you don't, then you are going to forget a lot of things that you took a test for, in terms of study for, not so much take a test for, but I think you get what I mean. And I've done it both ways. I've done a boot camp and I waited, and then I took an exam and I failed. So I said, okay, that's not going to work again. So I would then study, and then take an exam. And I found that worked out a lot better for me also from there. So what about an exam you need to be, in these particular exams, you need to kind of think through? Critical thinking, problem statement. you always have to ask yourself, what is the problem we're trying to solve? That then gives you an indication of facts. Stick to the facts and the problem you're trying to solve. Because anytime you take these exams, they'll kind of throw you a zinger. And it might look close to what the answer might be, but you got to focus on the problem that you're trying to solve. So if you look at the problem, you apply critical thinking, you get rid of abstract information that has nothing to do with your problem statement, you will find that you will able to narrow down the answer to a question to one or two answers. Then when you look at those two answers, you could say, okay, which one of these are more closely related to my problem statement? And then doing that, you normally come up with your answer. But the only way you kind of get there, you got to practice from that perspective. So those are kind of some tidbits I kind of want to leave you with as you talk about preparing for the examination. And again, as I have here, key resources, exams, practice exams, etc. from there. So what are the topics that are covered in this examination? Network security, compliance is covered, operational security, threats and vulnerabilities, application data, host security, access control, identity, access management, cryptology or cryptographic, I can never say that word right, and risk management, along with security architect and design. Again, we'll get into a lot of that in this course. Again, benefits, I won't even go into this anymore. I think I've talked about this too much outside of job opportunities, you name it. You can kind of read through that from that perspective. These are just some questions that I always put into the chapter after I finish training on it. So I won't read through it, but it's just something for you to kind of take away. One or two of these may be in an exam. And what I mean by that is I'm giving you concepts and how you may apply it, but the actual exam, obviously it's illegal to do one. I don't have it, and nor anyone who says they have it. You don't want to learn that way. I could tell you don't want to learn by just getting the answers and because even if you do, let's say you do that, I could guarantee you when you go into an employer and that employer says go off and do X, Y, Z and you don't understand, you could try to fake it, but I could tell you, having managed people internationally, I know whether someone knows their stuff or someone is just Googling the answer and getting it back to me, because I'm seasoned enough now to be able to talk about, well, what about this? What about that? And if the person didn't really understand foundationally what my ask was, then at the end of the day, they really don't know what they're doing. So again, now some people say fake it till you make it. I'm just telling you, be very careful of that approach. No shortcuts. Plus, why would you want to do it? It's about bettering yourself. It's about learning. And understanding the basics is really what will get you there versus, fast cutting it and shortcutting away. When I was going to my doctor, it took me 7 years. And I can tell you, if there was a shortcut, anyone who does a PhD program will tell you, if there's a shortcut they could get to, trust me, they would do it. But why? I could say I was better off taking the long road because now I understand fundamental basics of research, of hypothesis, of sampling in terms of sample size, etc., etc., etc. So these are just answers I provided. It's here in the presentation, in the recording. Again, just take note to it from there, but I won't necessarily go into it. There's some part of this is while you get a course, there's also some part of it where you need to kind of read through it and consume the information yourself. I will also have glossaries. Glossaries will be on desk. I don't know how much of the glossary, but these to me are giveaways. So if they talk about, what is a certification, hopefully, again, you don't have to use my definition, but you'll get an understanding of it. Cybersecurity, operational security, right? Really understand those terminologies from that perspective. Scenario-based questions, right? So again, that's why I talked about the problem statement. I didn't say scenario-based, I just said your problem statement is your scenario. And understanding how to apply that scenario to a question will allow you to be very successful. On each chapter that I go through in my training, I do put my email here. Again, it's not a one and done. I know my picture is kind of covering it here, but it is Dr. Paul Morrison at pkmcyberconsultants.com. Okay, on to the next chapter.